Welcome to Machine Minds, where technology and humanity meet. I'm your host, Greg Terusian, founder of Samson Rose, a recruiting and search business focused on the robotics and AI industries. The Machine Minds show is where we dive deep into the intricate world of robotics and artificial intelligence. As a staffing industry leader with a passion for the frontiers of technology, I'm pleased to be bringing you intimate conversations with the founders, investors, and trailblazers who are at the heart of the AI and robotics revolution. In each episode, we dig into their journeys, the applications of the products they're working on, and the breakthroughs that are shaping our future. Join us as we explore how these machine minds are transforming the way we live, work, and understand our world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about this amazing field, you'll learn something new with each episode. Let's delve into the extraordinary. Let's delve into machine minds. Hello and welcome to Machine Minds. I'm your host, Greg Terusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Raghav Gupta, co-founder and CEO of Posha, a company revolutionizing home cooking with advanced kitchen robotics. Thanks for being on the show today, Raghav.
Thanks for having me over, Greg.
Let's jump into it. So you're one of those unique people that have jumped straight into entrepreneurship, your career path, basically straight from school. Can you share a bit about that path and founding the company?
So I grew up in a household that my dad ran a business and he continues to run a business. And while growing up, we were taught that the biggest or the surest way to create change in the world is by being the change yourself. And as long as you have a vision, you can realize that vision on your own. There is obviously another way to realize your vision is to partner with organizations or companies that also share your vision. The vision I had, I didn't see anybody already trying to realize it, and so the most obvious way for me to realize it was to start a company. I also grew up in a culture where love was expressed through home cooked meals. And I've seen so many people in my life who've had to sacrifice their professional ambitions to provide these freshly cooked meals to their families, or who've had to just decide that they weren't going to spend as much time with their family just so that they could focus on their careers. Me and my wife did not want to have to make that decision between the two of us. And I did not want that for all the people that I'd seen making these choices. And I thought, one part of life that used to come in the middle of these two choices was actually cooking food. And we spent so much time in the kitchen every single day. 2 hours odd are spent in the kitchen every single day. And if just that is to some degree automated, if we can allow people to, if I can allow myself to prepare freshly cooked meals every single day for my family using ingredients that I have control on, that taste exactly the way I want my food to taste, that is as nutritious as I want it to be, as opposed to takeout and food delivery, while at the same time spending very little time in the kitchen, probably making the choice between family and work becomes easier because you don't have to, choose between one or the other. So I decided to start the company to solve that problem, and I didn't see any appliance maker, trying to take that path. So I think, that's the summary of it.
Yeah, that's great. I love the mission and also the meaning and reasoning behind this, because it's true. I as well, in the cultures I'm, my accent might give it away. I was born and raised in England, but my mom's South African, my dad was Armenian, and same sort of thing. There's so much cooking, so much catering to, and overfeeding. There's so many cultures that are like that. Obviously, Indian, Filipino, African, everyone, they do that. But in the Western world, like, especially now where a lot more people are career driven and your attention span is short and you're trying to pack so much into your day, it's hard to still do that and enjoy that and have the value in it. Um,
And what that's led to is, the biggest industry, in the US being like the insurance industry. We don't realize it in the short term, but in the long term, it has like compounding effects. We collectively, like on an average, an American spends like what, $10,000 per year on healthcare. Healthcare is a $1 trillion industry, the biggest, in the country, bigger than any other country. With and we've seen this with the United, healthcare news out there. People are really frustrated, and it's not the fault of the healthcare industry alone. It's also, we as a society are to blame equally, when we've just stopped prioritizing eating healthy food at home. Where we've stopped looking at the ingredient labels, where we've stopped being in touch with the food we eat. And I think that really needs to change for the society at large to be healthy.
yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. And, I'm guilty of it as well. I think we all are at times in the week or just in general. But like, I have two young kids and my wife works as well. And we try to eat as home as much as we can. But by the time you've done a whole shift of work, then you turn on to be your parent in the evening, and then you've got the kids to bed and stuff. Unless you're eating when you feed them, when I cook for them every day, breakfast and dinner. But unless I'm eating early with them, then by the time I've got them to bed, I'm like, do I really want to sit in the kitchen, stand in the kitchen again and start this whole process? And it's like, yeah, I don't know, the accessibility we've got as a society. I mean, we're going off into something else, but like, you got your DoorDashes and Uber Eats, you've got your Netflix, just everything's at your fingertips now
Right. Yeah.
for ease, and you forget the importance of the bigger picture. And food is medicine, right? So
Absolutely. So glad of, so glad that the new administration is sort of trying to look into it. Like, I don't have a stance on any political figure, but I like that I think Kennedy Jr. is focusing so much on the labels, and pushing the FDA to make sure the kids of the country eat fresh meals every day, and changing like the meal plan of the school. I think we're moving in the right direction.
yeah, so important. Big business is just like killing the food industry. But yeah, so that's awesome. I love that. And that is really, it sounds like what inspired the creation of the company. And before we get even further, you just went through a rebrand. So I want people to realize that, because I was familiar and first knew you from when the company was called Nimble. And then you guys have recently gone through the rebrand. Anyone that's part of your newsletter would have got the announcement. You've got an awesome new website and everything like that. So can you tell us a bit about that and the reasoning behind the name change?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. So we have been called Nimble for the longest time. That's Nimble with a Y, Nymble. And while and we have been in private betas for a very long time. For the last 3 years, we've been in private betas. We designed these devices, installed them in consumer homes. And for those who don't know, what Posha does is we build cooking robots to help people like you and me eat freshly cooked meals every single day without spending tons of time in the kitchen. All you do is choose the recipe on the screen of our robot, put in freshly chopped ingredients, tap cook, and out comes a delicious meal. It's like a coffee machine but for food. Um, and unlike a coffee machine, which only uses simple ingredients like coffee beans, milk, water, which can be cooked using simple time and temperature presets, regular food cannot be cooked that way. An onion might take like 3 minutes to brown versus 7 minutes to brown, depending on where it was procured from, what the ambient humidity is, um, what the ambient temperature is, whether it's a white onion or a red onion, things like that. And so we use camera and computer vision algorithms to mimic human chef-like intelligence, so your food is cooked perfectly every single time. So coming back to why we rebranded from Nimble to Posha. So as we were running all of our consumer trials, we we started asking ourselves, hey, why is it that consumers really cook at home? And why are they really using Posha? Um, is it to eat healthy? Uh, that was part of, that was part of why they were using Posha. Um, but but were they also using it to save time? Uh, because that is also a big part of it, right? And they were using it to save time as well. But as we continued to dig deeper, we found out that health, time, convenience were could partially explain why they were using Posha, but or Nimble at the time. But the biggest reason they were using Nimble was because they wanted their family. They wanted to express love to their family, and the way they expressed love was by taking care of their families, and they took care of their families through this healthy, fresh cooked food that tasted exactly the way they wanted it to taste like. Um, and that's the reason they were spending all this time in the kitchen. Um, and so we thought we should have our name reflect that. And Posha is derived from this Hindi word called poshan. And poshan means nourishment, nurture. Uh, and so Posha helps you nourish your family. Posha helps you take care of your families through food. And I couldn't think of a single word that encapsulated both nourishment and nurture at the same time. So that's why we're Posha.
That. Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, very meaningful word that aligns with the product. That's great. Um, can you walk us through, because we have a lot of like first time founders that listen to this or aspiring founders that listen to the show. And I'd love for you to walk us through your early days of the company, of the product development, if there were any like pivotal moments, mentors, or some of the hurdles that you faced. I'd love for you to paint that picture for us because it's never smooth sailing.
Right. And it never was smooth sailing. I think a few things worked in our favor when we started out. The first thing that worked in our favor was the fact that we were first-time founders. Me and my co-founder had not worked at a company before, so there was no baggage. We were not used to a paycheck coming into our bank every single month. And so we did not know what money looked like. Uh, and so we could be at this for as long as we wanted to be without really worrying about, uh, money, so to say. I think if I had to start the company all over again, I'm pretty sure that would be a big consideration in my mind. Um, so that was one. It was good that I had another co-founder. So, as everybody knows, startups are a roller coaster ride. There are highs and there are lows. The the beauty of having a co-founder is that your highs and and the lows of your co-founder always like balance out each other. So I have observed whenever I was feeling low, my co-founder was always in a chipper mode, and so I would get back up. And when I was super euphoric and maybe prone to taking rash decisions, again I had a rational mind to talk to and get back down. So so having a partner that believes in your mission and continues to work with you towards it, makes you feel you're not alone and gives you strength to continue to move forward. Um, and then there's persistence. I think, and I know I'm being like these are just like regular like maxims on a very high meta level, but as long as as long as the logic makes sense, you see that there's a gap that the world has, and you've talked to multiple people in this world, and that gap exists, and you understand the technology enough to know that the technology can solve that gap. Um, it's just a matter of persistence at that point of time. It's just a waiting game, not like a waiting game, but a building game that you have to work towards, filling this gap with the technology that will fill that gap. Um, and as long as you keep patient and have persistence and find other people who believe the same, and are willing to fund you and work with you as employees, as partners, as co-founders, as customers, I think it's easy to sail through. Um, and on persistence, as I said, having a co-founder and not having all of that baggage just helps you continue to have that person and the belief in the logic, like core logic of the business. It just helps you sail through and helps you be persistent.
I think with persistence or aligned with persistence, it's having a clear vision and purpose with it.
Right.
Because if it's, I mean, you were very clear about why you're doing the company and what the outcome would be, right? What you're going to give back to you yourself being a user, but then also to the people, your customers, with their families, with health, with time. So that, I'm sure, helps with persistence and drive, because it's not just, hey, I want to create something cool to make a bunch of money and or prove out this theory that this technology works. Like, what's the end vision? And that was clear from the start, it sounds like. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
How did you meet your co-founder at
We
college?
went to the same high school together.
Oh, wow. No way.
So
Oh,
we
cool.
had known each other for many, many years before we started the company.
Love that. And with the founding team, so it was just the two of you, I'm assuming, that kicked it off. And we first met almost a year ago at Robotics Invest, and we were on a round table talking about board, like assembling your board. So I do want to double click on this whole founding team, investors and board and stuff like that, because that's a journey from someone who hadn't worked anywhere before, has been learning this as they go. How have you navigated that, and who have you kind of leaned on mentor wise or advice wise to help you build this core foundation for the business?
I think just in life, like anybody navigating life, you try to learn from the best people you can. When you're trying to be great parents, you go to other people who are great parents and ask them, hey, how should I raise my kid? When you're in school, you probably talk to the other students and your teachers, and you ask them, hey, how can I be a better student? So likewise, as a student of entrepreneurship, I've just gone to other entrepreneurs and operators and try to learn from them about how I can be a better builder, a better entrepreneur, a better leader. Um, we always, we always try to, stay in touch with founders who were, at least 2, 3 steps beyond where we are. Um, and um, and and as long as we were authentic and we were not always pitching to them, but actually went to them with our deepest problems, like the true problems that we were facing, they were always willing to help. Um, so I think just being authentic and surrounding yourself with the right kind of founders has helped. In my early days, if I have to be specific, there is this company there's an EV company called Ather Energy. They're probably India's largest electric vehicle company. So I used to know the founder, and I continue to know him well. And whenever I had a question or I was navigating my startup, I would ask him uh, how I should solve a particular problem. There's the founder of this company called Grey Orange Robotics, which which is a large warehousing robotics company. So I would lean on to him for advice. He encouraged us to have presence, not to basically branch out outside of India. He encouraged us to work with manufacturers in China to lean on their expertise. So we did that. Um, and so these are the founders, and then on the operator side, there have been, our board has been super helpful. We have 3 VCs on our cap table. Um, the partners of across all 3 VCs have again been very, very helpful. I can lean on them, call them anytime I need advice. Um, yeah, I think I've just learned from surrounding myself with the right kind of people, and perhaps also reading the right kind of material. Uh, so there is this company called Superhuman. Superhuman is an email client. They don't even build hardware. But the founder of Superhuman wrote this blog post about finding product market fit and how his company created this engine to um, help figure out whether a company was moving closer to product market fit or not. They try to instrument product market fit. And I've never met the founder of Superhuman, but that piece that he wrote has very much been like the operating system that our company runs on to find product market fit.
If anyone knows him, please share this episode so he can hear the shout out. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Let's talk about Posha's technology and your differentiators. So you described it as and mentioned, it's a kitchen robot, thinks and cooks like a human, which is really important, and the differences and variable elements that different ingredients have is hard to like preset. So can you elaborate on the technology that enables that, and like your precision camera vision and adaptive intelligence and things like that?
So our product has three parts to it. There is the hardware, there is software, and then there's content. Hardware is all of the machinery that makes cooking possible, and the hardware basically mimics human hands and legs. So the hardware would comprise of ingredient containers, the mechanism to dump those ingredient containers into a cooking vessel or a pan, an induction cooktop, an assembly to dispense spices, assembly to put in oil, water. So all of that is like mechanical hardware stuff. We also have our GPUs and our electronics as part of the hardware. And of course all of our sensors. On the software front, we have software that makes sure all of these things work together to cook a great meal. So we would have our firmware making sure that ingredients are dispensed at the right time, stirred at the right time, and all of those like lower level subsystems are working properly. And then on the higher level software, we have our computer vision algorithms, our AI algorithms that recommend the right kind of recipes to our customers, that customize each recipe to their liking automatically, that automatically detect change in color, texture, consistency of the food being cooked, essentially mimicking human chef-like intelligence. Automatically creating a meal plan for users, helping them decide what they might want to eat the next week. And we're able to do that because our consumers are so happy with the product, they use it more than 3 times a week. And when you're cooking, more than 3 times a week, you're being used more than a meal kit company. And a meal kit company gives you a meal plan, so it's very natural for us to give you a meal plan. And then auto-populating like a grocery list for you to purchase from your local Trader Joe's or to just order off ingredients off Instacart. So all of that is our software. And then on the content side, we have a team of culinarians and research chefs that create the actual recipes that you savor and enjoy and take comfort in eating. So it's very much like Netflix is rolling out new movies every single day. We're rolling out new recipe programs every single day for you to enjoy. We're also working on generative AI capabilities for our robot to automatically create recipes that taste good without there being any pre-existing recipes on the robot. So if you're English and there's an English recipe that's not there on a robot, you could very much say, help me with an English breakfast recipe that's vegan and that's also high in cinnamon.
So just throw all the variables, throw all of your inputs in, and then it was going to spit out something cool.
Yes, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
In text, it's easy because if ChatGPT spills out garbage, it wouldn't matter.
Right.
But if our robot spills out a garbage recipe, you'd stop relying on it for your food.
Yeah.
So it also needs to taste really good.
Definitely. I wouldn't probably stick English cuisine at the top of the list, in all honesty. Anyway, that's another topic. That's really cool. So it's going to be at your fingertips as well. Recommendations, giving you, learning you as a end user, as a consumer of the food, and then telling you, oh, you might like this, you should order that. That's
Yeah.
great. And I know we
It's
spoke
a
about,
private chef in your kitchen.
yeah, I love
That's what
that.
it is.
I love that. And we spoke about this offline before we started recording, but can you tell us like where, because you guys have just started shipping the product, you've had like early signups and things like that, but where have people been finding you and hearing about the product and actually ordering?
So, so people find us through, a couple of channels. The most, um, the channel that has worked best for us is just pure word of mouth referrals. Every customer that uses our product refers us at least three more paying customers. People hold Posha parties at their place where they get the robot to cook a meal, invite 10 people in their community to see the robot live, and that gets us a ton of interest. Uh, the second thing that has worked for us is just videos created by users and posted online for the others to view. Uh, so in the past couple of months, there have been millions of views on Posha cooking multiple different recipes. Influencers create content, our customers create content, regular Joes like you and me create content and post it online, and it tends to get viral, which tends to get us a lot of customers. And then um, we do run meta ads sometimes, and some of these meta ads cater to certain audiences. There's this robot that got very popular in the Indian American community long back. It was called the Rotimatic. It would automatically make the Indian flatbread or the roti for you. So we ran a campaign called, Currymatic to your Rotimatic for the Indian American diaspora, and they just jumped on it. So these things have worked very well for us. But outside of this, there's a lot of community building effort as well. We have an active community on Facebook of early users. They continue to talk to each other. We often host pop-up events every once in a while where people can come to our place in California, actually taste the food. Uh, and tasting is believing. So when people taste the food, they instantly get blown. We started a program to allow people to get a virtual demo because not everybody is in California, so they can't taste the food, but they could still virtually, see us. There was a program where we've stopped doing this, but there was a time when we would ship consumers panna cotta cooked by the robot in small packets. So we actually had like food safe, packaging that was sent to consumers' homes for them to try what the food tastes like. Uh, so we just ran a lot of these guerrilla marketing experiments and acquired users. We stopped taking pre-orders, in fact, last year, like exactly 1 year back, because we had so many orders on our books and we did not have the supply to fulfill all these orders. But now that we've started shipping, units out, we actually just started we just opened up orders again this week.
Great. Okay. I better
So
jump in
people,
line.
yeah, so people can visit our website, www.posha.com, and put a $25 deposit to get their place in line. And, this $25 is fully refundable, but it gets you, first in line when we're ready to ship.
Perfect. We'll put the link in the show notes, but I will jump on there and put a deposit first before we do that. Okay, that's great stuff. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it seems so organic and natural, people sharing, because you want to share, right? And the community behind, and obviously the people that you're trying to serve. It's love, it's caring, it's community, it's all of that stems from the food and nurturing and looking after others. How big is your team before I jump into that?
We're roughly 50 people.
50, okay. And
Yeah.
from the marketing and community efforts that you've been doing, is that like something that's organic? Is that all internal? Do you partner with anyone external? How does that look?
We have partnered with very little people externally. we feel most of the times if it's worth doing, it's best to hire people internally. We did work with a branding agency as an external partner. Our lawyers are external, our accounting functions are external. But these things that are like small projects are external, but outside of that, everything is in-house.
And it sounds like your culture is very strong at the company. How do you foster or even hire against your culture or for your culture and continue to nurture and foster that culture of caring, of community, and of innovation?
So I think so when we're hiring people, we look for hard workers, not necessarily smart workers. We have this, uh, there's this thing internally. We feel that hard work can overcome everything. So if you have a person who is really smart and works hypothetically like 40 units a week, and then another person not as smart but works like 55 units a week, chances are that over time this 55 units week guy will actually surpass the 40 units a week person just because they're putting in the hours. um, so I think we've just developed a team of hard workers over the time. We encourage dissent. So if anybody has anything to speak out, we actually let them speak publicly. Our all hands meetings are often meetings where founders take feedback from all of our team members instead of it being the other way around. And people are very vocal and have openly um, talked about things that have really frustrated them. Organically, what has happened in our company is, every time somebody goes to a different city and they come back, they get food for the entire office. So there's this Slack channel where every time somebody comes back, they're like, "Hey, I got XYZ. It's in the kitchen. Please grab it before it runs out." And so there's a very strong community around food. Um, there's always food being cooked in our kitchens because the robots are always cooking. Uh, and so again, that just fosters a sense of community around food in the company. Um, those are the few things that come to mind. I can go on and on because culture is not a easy topic, but that's what I have to share right away.
It's super important, though. I'm sure you can agree. And if you don't have people that align with it and live it, well, they're not going to fit. They're probably going to leave, but then it can be detrimental to the company as a whole.
Yeah. One thing I'm super proud of, culturally is I think the majority of people who have decided, the majority of the early people who we hired and who decided to move on, actually decided to start their own companies.
Really?
So, so that shows that, from the very start, we've hired people who have been very entrepreneurial themselves.
Yeah, I like that. I guess I have a devil's advocate question on what you said about hard workers over smart workers, because there's a lot of sayings over there, it's more about application and grit than knowledge, right? A hard worker is always going to beat someone who has the ability that doesn't apply themselves every single time. And it just came to me because you're obviously building a robotic automation product, right? And we're in the day and age of AI and enabling people to do more with less, et cetera, et cetera. What's your viewpoint on that? Is it a little contradictory to think, hey, we build automation and there's all these ways of like saving time and saving effort and working smarter, not harder in life, but we want to employ people that work harder? Or are you trying to combine the hard work with smart work to?
So let me put it in a different way. So, um, we're not there yet and we will never be there. But once we've colonized the moon, we will want to colonize Mars. When we have colonized Mars, we'll want to colonize Jupiter and God knows what. And so, there's no limit to, where we want to get at as a civilization. Having said that, a person now, there are two, if we treat a person as a vector, which has like magnitude and direction, uh, I feel um, it's far easier than changing or aligning the direction of a person who has a big magnitude number. If their magnitude, if they're if they're working hard, but they're not focusing their energies on the right things, which is, automation, smartly looking at research papers, there is a way to align them and say, hey, you're working hard, but not in the right direction. You just move a bit and focus on these other things. And 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 they will be able to excel. Versus a person who has, the right vector, which is the working on the smart things, and you want to increase, the amount of you want to increase their magnitude. I think that is harder to do than the former, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's very clear for me. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, you are still a startup. At the end of the day, you are working on a hardware product, and output is important. Resources aren't as, flush as other companies, right? So you want to maximize your employees, maximize the output, and do more with less in a lot of ways. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you. I appreciate that. How do you envision the next sort of 5 years of evolution for Posha and your product?
I think the next few years we'd continue to just improve reliability of our current hardware, make the software more robust, continue to ship out more recipes or create more content, and just ensure that we're able to put Posha in the hands of as many people as possible. Eventually, where we want to get to is what I call built-in status. So if you look at the most important appliances in the kitchen, the refrigerator, the oven, the microwave, the stovetop, at some point of time, these appliances were, countertop, tabletop, standalone devices. They became so useful in consumers' lives that property developers started pre-installing these devices in the homes that they were selling. But to get there, these devices had to be super, useful to consumers. They needed to have high usage, high retention. Our objective is to replace the stovetop with something that can cook for you when you don't feel like cooking, and that you can cook on and exercise your creative freedom when you do actually feel like cooking over the weekends. Our R&D efforts will be towards building that next version of Posha. But to earn the right to get there, we need to make sure that the countertop appliance version is super useful. People continue to use it like 3+ times a week, and there's like mass adoption for it.
That's great. Exciting. Yeah, exciting. Love that. Some critics, again, a devil's advocate question, and I think you've answered this already, but I'd like to throw it out there for anyone that wants to hear specifically your opinion. But there's obviously critics for everything these days, especially robots, automation, AI, etc. And some people would say like kitchen automation could diminish the art and personal touch of cooking, right? How do you respond to those kind of concerns or that viewpoint?
So I disagree with it because what I've seen is that in the absence of kitchen automation, what do you typically do when you don't have the time? Most people don't rely on cooking on their own. They rely on takeouts and processed foods and ultra processed foods and unhealthy habits. But when they do feel like cooking, they don't rely on automation at all, right? They cook. I cook on weekends, very much so, because I enjoy, cooking recipes that, my wife likes to eat. And honestly, my robot can't even cook at this point of time. So I say automation is helpful when you want it to be helpful, for your Mondays to Fridays, when you want to focus on your work, when you want to keep your family nourished, but don't want to spend all that time in the kitchen. And there is honestly no other alternative because, fast food is not the alternative. Eating out is not the alternative. Protein bars is not really the alternative. They don't taste delicious. Right? So the only alternative is like automation. And then when you want to exercise your creative freedom, turn the automation knob off and enjoy cooking.
Love that. Yeah, Very true. Very good. And like I said, you've touched on it already, and I think for the use case here, for the people, the ideal customer, and the times, you're not trying to replace it fully, but you're trying to give them that healthy home cooked alternative, then ordering out, right? And we're limited by time, really. Time, effort, energy. There's a cap that we have on a daily basis. So, well, look, before we wrap, you've already given some great advice, but is there any other advice that you would offer to aspiring founders that are looking to enter the robotics and hard tech space?
I think it's a very exciting time to be in the hardware robotics space. 5 years back, nobody would touch robots. And all of a sudden, with AI becoming the new hype, uh, you know, possibilities of what can be done as long as we have the right kind of hardware have like opened up. Um, I would say just build conviction on the problems you're trying to solve and, continue to be at it. Your efforts would compound, and I think it's just a great time to be in this space.
Definitely. I definitely agree with all of that. Well, look, Raghav, thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your insights, your experiences, your advice. Really appreciate it. Where can our listeners find you and learn more about Posha? You obviously mentioned the website, which we'll include, but where can they stay up to date on the developments and everything like that?
So they can go on our website, and if they're not ready to pre-order, they can just put their email down, and we'll keep them posted with the latest developments. Or they can follow me on Twitter. I'm at RAGSGUPS on Twitter. Or, if you have specific questions, reach out to me. My email is raghav@posha.com.
Thank you so much again. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was great. And for everyone listening, please make sure you subscribe, share it with a friend, share this episode specifically, because I think there's so many good insights here. And anyone, whether you're in robotics or not, we all eat, we all like food. And hearing about this and how the product can help you is going to be life-changing in a lot of ways. So thank you again.
Thanks for having me on the show, Greg.
My pleasure.